If you've ever wondered how to turn something that's widely considered niche into a mainstream success, then this next conversation is for you. A few weeks ago, I headed to London to record a live update with two of my friends at Perfect Ted, co-founder Marisa and head of sales Shani Higgs. Since we had Perfect Ted last on Brand Growth Heroes, the team has grown the business to a run rate of over 30 million in revenue, and they're not slowing down. In this latest episode, we dive into how they cracked the mass market with Matcha, the lessons learned along the way, and what's next for Perfect Ted. Plus, we'll hear some really fascinating insights from their recent trip to visit their growers in Japan, from where they're now one of the top 5 importers of matcha globally. From a global partnership with Oatly, growing a team and culture to match their speed, and their latest launch, flavoured matcha latte in a can, this is where you can get the entire scoop. P.S. At the end of the episode, I'll tell you all about my visit to their new offices in the heart of Dragon Stephen Bartlett's fabulous office HQ.
In front of me, I am looking at a new Perfect Ted that I have never seen before. So before we talk about anything else, what is this matcha latte can?
We're bringing it back.
Oh my God, amazing.
So if you're familiar with how we started, it was actually with lattes we were going to launch with on Kickstarter. Exactly. Couldn't produce them. And now we've innovated a ton on, just the flavor and the development, and we're putting it in a can.
So can we taste?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Open it.
Okay, so this one that I have is vanilla. You've got a pink one. What's your one?
Strawberry, and it is so delicious.
I'm assuming this is oat, is it?
That is oat,
milk,
yeah.
Okay.
Gluten-free oat milk.
And it says 1 can equals 1 espresso, ceremonial grade matcha, right?
So there's 60 milligrams of caffeine in there from matcha.
Oh my God, that is delicious.
Do you like it?
It is really smooth.
Put a lot of love into it.
Sweet, without being too sweet. Tastes like a nice treat. And then I get at the end, I get the matcha hit at the end. It's really, really interesting. That's incredible. So remind all of our listeners why you didn't launch with the latte, besides the fact that you couldn't manufacture it. Why did you go with juice?
We realized very early on that matcha was an unfamiliar taste to a lot of Western taste buds, and we wanted to put it into a format that was more familiar. And by putting it into an energy drink kind of format and also pairing it with flavors that people, I guess, would be more familiar with, like juices that were complementary and helped kind of tone down the earthy flavor of matcha, that would be more palatable for consumers.
And the last time we spoke, because you guys have been on the podcast before, Shani, you reminded me, what was the title? It was
0 to 5 million in 18 months.
0 to 5 million in 18 months. Oh my God.
I'm thrilled to introduce Brand Growth Heroes' newest partner, Jolson. Jolson is a leading B Corp certified commercial law firm that specialises in guiding the founders of scaling CPG brands. With long-term relationships with clients like Little Moons, Trip, Eat Natural, Bear, Graze and Pulsin, Jolson is also famous for advising the Innocent founders in their landmark sale to Coca-Cola. And believe it or not, they still work with the Innocent founders at Jam Jar Investments today. I'm especially impressed by how Jolson sets founders up for long-term success and by their commitment to championing female founders. Recently, I asked managing partner Paul Chappie, why does a scaling brand need a corporate lawyer?
So you definitely need someone that's going to have your back, that is going to be looking at those pitfalls that may be coming in the future, preferably someone that knows the industry, because having that context is really important when negotiating, be that commercial agreements or funding arrangements. And at the end of the day, you really need to have someone that you can trust and obviously can negotiate hard when they need to.
Huge thanks to Brand Growth Heroes podcast sponsors, Jolson. Now let's get back to the show.
I just heard from Levi that you're going to top 30 million this year.
Yes.
So 0 to 30 million in how many years?
This will be our 4th year.
Yeah.
In our 4th year. Talk me through, Shani, how does that happen? So when we did the podcast episode 18 months ago, or was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago, you'd done your first block of 5 million. How did the other blocks of 5 million happen?
A really big piece of it is MPD. I think we've moved incredibly quickly. When I look at our portfolio, even for me, it's overwhelming. And I have to think, oh my God, the majority of these we've actually created in less than 12 months. So a really good example.
Let's talk about them, yeah.
is our flavoured matcha powder range and also our matcha espresso pods, which...
So we've got pods in a box and we've got
Flavoured powders.
flavoured powders in sachets with Ziplocs. I've actually got these in my local Tesco in the Isle of Man.
There we go.
That makes me very
So
happy.
how many SKUs do you have for the flavoured? Okay, that probably wasn't the best.
Vanilla, strawberry,
We're currently consolidating the range a little bit, so we're
7.
Was it like throw it at the wall and see what sticks?
It actually came from, and I love this story, it came from meeting our Holland & Barrett buyer. So she was the head of drinks, and we took her to a coffee shop where we knew that our matcha was sold. And she was a self-confessed matcha hater. She hated matcha, she didn't like it. She appreciated what we were doing, but she didn't like matcha. So we thought, okay, we're going to get her a blueberry matcha latte. And she sat down and she went, oh my God, this is incredible. How do we put this in a retail product?
Okay.
And I said to her, you're literally reading my mind. Like, this is what I'm dreaming about. And then within like the next month, we started going to manufacturers all over the UK, trying to find someone that can help us put this into a flavoured pouch format, but also into pods, which was a very difficult process. I got a lot of grey hairs along the way, but we made it work in 9 months. From that conversation, it was on shelf in Holland & Barrett. It was very, very difficult.
You've got the fruit juices, which are the original, and then you have the sachets, which were originally just matcha flavoured, and then there was the sticks, yeah? And then there's the flavoured sachets and the flavoured pods.
Yeah.
How does the business split in terms of like, which block of that is what percentage of the business? And I'm sure you don't want to tell us the exact figures, but I love understanding, like for me, to understand a business, I want to understand the chunks of money, where they all sit, because then I know where to focus on, you know?
So in retail, it's about 60% matcha powder, 40% drinks.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is MPD that we're launching in April, so it'd be really exciting to see how that performs.
So hopefully by the time this episode gets released, you'll have just launched these, right? So if you're listening to this now, hopefully these will already be on shelf.
These will be on shelf in Waitrose, Tesco, and Holland & Barrett.
Oh my God. Front of store?
Front store in Waitrose, in a 4-pack in Tesco, and then, in the chiller with Holland & Barrett as well. And hopefully some other retailers, fingers crossed, still waiting.
Wow.
Shani will close them because that's what she is. A closer. She's a closer.
Always be close.
So that's the current split.
I think that split will change once these get traction, because, you know, matcha juice, it was already a niche idea, right? Putting matcha with a juice. You know, you never see that anywhere. Lots of people had never tried matcha, potentially didn't like matcha. You put it in a juice, okay, you're going to get a few more. But the fact, 40% of your revenue coming from retail was in that product was already amazing. But stick this into the mix, I think the cans are going to be a huge part of your business.
I think it's important to note, though, the framing and the positioning that we did with, because you refer to it as matcha and juice, but it's healthy energy. And that was a really intentional shift in our packaging design, helped informed by you. Thank you, Fee.
I remember where I was sitting. I was sitting upstairs wasn't it lockdown?
Yeah.
And it was a really sunny day. And we were talking about the fact that if you hooked it, if the frame of reference was matcha, only like 0.5% of the population knew what matcha was. But if the frame of reference was green tea, well then probably 80%. So you moved to green tea.
Yeah. We moved to green tea, which was, we saw a shift there, but then we took it a step further and we thought, how can we really directly compete with other players in the category that we were next to front of store on shelf? And this is the evolution.
So there's the first one.
This is the first one. Yeah. Oh yeah, it doesn't even say green tea on it. Look at that.
That one says matcha. So that was the one when you guys came to me first and we started doing the Brand Growth Heroes program together. It was this.
Exactly.
And then it went to green tea on the outer case.
Exactly.
And then it was green tea for a while on the thing. But then you guys, rightly so, because you guys are the entrepreneurs here and the big thinkers, you were like, no, screw that. We're going to go even further and we're going to call it healthy energy.
Yes.
I said, somebody's going to stop you calling it healthy energy. Has anyone stopped you?
No, we're good.
No, we're totally fine.
I was going to say, I'm shocked that you were able to find this because I thought you drank the last one. Did you hear this story? Shani accidentally drank one of our original.
I was sat there and I was like, it tastes a little bit different, but it's still really good. And Teddy looked at the packaging and he could see it was one of the original vintage cans
which will one day be worth a fortune.
was typically kept up there, but somebody had moved it down there. So I just picked it up and drank it, and it was a year out of date. Teddy has still not forgiven. And actually, I drank 2.
What?
Wow. And I drank the second one, and Mark, who's sat right there, he actually knows this because I then dug through the bin to find out if it was the old one. And Teddy doesn't know.
So we'll find out.
You'll find out now. But you know that someday, I mean, who just got bought in the States? Olipop's.
Poppy.
Just got bought for like...
How many? Oh, Teddy's coming in. Don't you dare come in, Teddy. Don't you dare. This is girls only. So Poppy just got bought in the States. Was it by Pepsi?
Yeah.
Yes.
For like
2 billion.
2 billion, right? So imagine one day you guys get bought by somebody similar for billions. Those original cans will be worth a lot of money.
I hope so.
So you may have actually imbibed about 200,000 quid's worth of old matcha.
Yeah.
We'll make that back up. It's okay. She'll just win it in sales this week.
How did you take something as niche as matcha and mainstreamize it, make it appeal to the mass market, which is what you've done? Because you can't have a business that is turning over 30 million unless it is appealing to the mass market, right?
Yeah. I think it really all comes back to what matcha offers to the end consumer and its functionality, which is it's a healthy source of caffeine. It would be different if the effect that one had when drinking it wasn't, tangible. A lot of supplements, for instance, they advertise certain benefits, but can you really feel them? Whereas with caffeine, you can feel the benefit immediately. And so I think it comes down to the fact that it's a tried and proven ingredient, has been consumed for over 800 years in Japan, originally used by monks to help aid with energy and focus during long hours of meditation. So we're really building habit, not hype. Because in the same way that coffee has habitual use, matcha has the same, so amongst its consumers, and people are now using it as a complement to coffee, switching out maybe their second or third cup for the day for a matcha because it's a gentler source of caffeine.
As you're talking, I'm doing that like brain going crazy, which you know really well, Marisa, because we're so similar that way. Coca-Cola owns that red, yeah?
Yeah.
You guys now have a green, right?
You own green, baby.
Have you protected that in some way?
Mm-hmm. Good. We were very serious about our IP, and we actually own trademarks to a lot of now common matcha phrases like "I love you so matcha" or
Matcha made easy.
Matcha made easy.
The perfect matcha.
Exactly. So, and we have quite a few trademark infringements.
Okay.
Yeah,
what about the color though? How do you do that?
Working on it.
Okay.
Watch the space.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw, I wrote about owning olive green. Yeah. So obviously we have a specific Pantone, it's 2256C, if anyone's curious.
Queen branding.
Although I did not know that at the time. We wear green every day and we have all types of green around the office. We're really not.
But you can't own olive green, right?
Why not? Why
Is
not?
it possible legally?
Well, legally, but mentally, yeah, why not?
Okay.
Whenever someone sees any sort of green now, they send it to me. They're like, oh, I just saw this in the store. It's not maybe
It's
our
like
shade.
I bought you that skirt in Primark.
Exactly.
You know, that I forgot to bring this time. I've been meaning to give you that skirt from Primark for like 2.5 years now.
So cute.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's pleated.
We're gonna give you a hoodie after this, and it's a dark green because it's a bit more wearable than our usual Kelly green. Or like my nails, for instance, they're very bright and would be off-putting to some people, but we want to make things that people will actually wear.
Contact lenses. I would like some perfect Ted contact lenses.
Your eyes are beautiful.
No, but just for the you know.
For the vibes, for the brand vibes. Why not? All right, well, we can work on that.
Okay, so we have 30 million in sales made up of what percent is retail versus wholesale?
50% retail,
Yeah.
30% out of home.
Okay.
But that is, and then 10% e-com, 10% export.
Right.
It is all growing very quickly though.
Yeah.
If you were to say, what channel are we focusing on?
All of them.
Honestly, it's all of them.
Yeah.
It's scary how quickly, in a great way, how quickly it's growing.
And you're not going to go to France without speaking to me first, are you? Non.
No.
You say bien sûr que non.
I can't say that.
Bien sûr que non.
No idea.
I seeing Teddy on the FMCG group going, does anyone know anything about France? I'm like, oh my God.
Can we actually shout out on the podcast? If anybody does know a really good French distributor.
I do.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you don't need to ask anyone because I
We
do.
need an intro.
That's fine, that's no problem. I can do that for you. I can do
In
that
French.
for you. Yeah, I can do that for you. No problem. I had a meeting with them last week. They're at IFE at the moment.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're still here, but I can find out.
we try and look for partners that obviously will invest in growing the brand, but also have a very strong presence and understanding of retail and out of home.
Yeah.
Out of home is a very key part of our
Yeah,
strategy.
particularly in France, that will be the case because that's even more so than with places like Cogent and the kind of more cool versions of Gales. That's where everything starts.
Yeah, that's our sampling channel. So somebody would walk into a Joe and the Juice, for example, and try one of our matcha lattes. They would then see our logo on the menu, and they would then go onto Amazon, or they'll go down the road into a Tesco and pick up our matcha pouch and recreate that experience.
But I think you got to think about it, and I talk about this all the time with the brands I work with as an NED. You've got to think about the people who are willing, they've already made that jump to try something slightly different. They're usually doing that in an out-of-home setting where the drink is going to be made for them and they feel like the barista knows how to do it. Exactly. And they feel like the flavors are going to be matched perfectly. It's less of a risk, isn't it, than doing it yourself?
Yes.
So you have to be in the place where they're going to be in the mood to try something like that and feel like the person is going to deliver them a great experience.
Exactly. Especially when this pouch is £10 in store, which is... It's expensive. It's very mainstream price for a ceremonial grade organic matcha, but it is expensive as a first purchase.
To put that into context, when we first launched, there were a few brands that were selling ceremonial grade organic matcha for 40 quid.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
So let's talk about the ceremonial grade organic matcha. You guys have an amazing relationship with the supplier in Japan, right? And that is a key part of your IP, your tacit IP, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about that because you're now the 5th biggest global customer.
Top 5 importers of matcha globally, and the biggest importer of matcha in the UK.
Unbelievable. And you recently got invited over.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
We just came back from Japan, finally beating the jet lag, and
When did you get back?
Saturday, yeah. So it was just an incredible trip. I mean, we're now at a scale where we're working with the Japanese government really to promote Japanese matcha green tea across the UK. They've tapped us as a partner, which is so incredible. It's just an honor and a privilege really to be able to do that because we value so much the culture around matcha in Japan and how important it is as part of society there. And that was the most fun part of the trip, just seeing it everywhere and in everything. I mean, you go into 7-Eleven, they have matcha in every single product. We brought back some of them actually over there. I'll show you after it. But
whether it's Kit Kat or biscuits or wafers or ice cream or
3 different variations of RTD matcha lattes, everything, matcha pasta.
Health as well, health and beauty. It's really big in that category too.
Oh, wow. Can I use your matcha, pure matcha as a face mask?
Absolutely. We have a honey Greek yogurt face mask recipe actually on our blog. I'll send it to you. It's very good. Okay. But no, it was an amazing trip. And every time we've gone there, it's so inspiring to just see how much they value the craft and also how it hasn't changed much in the last 800 years, really. I mean, you would be surprised. And actually, when I asked you what you were most surprised about, do you want to share what you said to me?
About the process?
Yeah, how it hasn't...
and I'm actually looking because I know that we have some in the office somewhere.
I think they've been moved.
Okay. For me, it's the process it's with, what's the actual stone?
I forget the name of the stone, but it's stone milled, the matcha, and they use a special type of granite that has particular kind of like lesions in the granite that allow it to basically turn from tencha leaves to, here we go.
Oh, wow. A big thing that looks a bit like a pestle and mortar, but isn't a pestle and mortar, has been just put on the table, yeah?
It is an ishi usu, and this was what was traditionally used to hand grind matcha, turning it from tencha, which is dried green tea leaves, and those are specifically the green tea leaves that had been shaded for about 30 days before being picked, and steamed and dried and deveined. And then when you spin it enough times, it is ground into a very fine powder, which is matcha.
Do they drink it hot or do they drink it cold? Do they use it in energy drinks? Is that all relatively new as well for them?
Yeah, these are actually tencha.
Oh, these are tencha leaves we've got on the table now. Ooh, are they open already?
Yeah, open it. But what Shani was most amazed by when we were in Japan...
Smells sweet.
Yeah.
The process hasn't changed, as Marisa said, for 800 years. And when you go into the manufacturer's site, it's amazing because it's basically hundreds of these just spinning.
Wow.
But if I were to ask you, how long do you think it would take to make a 30-gram pouch of our matcha using this method? What would you say?
Okay, let me think. So I would say 20 minutes.
It would take an hour.
Wow. Okay, so that's how fine and how even and how consistent they want it to be.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something really interesting, which was that the leaves had to be in the shade for 30 days beforehand. This is something that's really key, I think, for people who are listening outside of Perfect 10. You know, you're understanding your ingredients, where they come from and how they're actually made to such a degree that actually then it becomes a point of difference, doesn't it? It becomes a point of difference versus, say, someone who's just who's ground some green tea.
Right.
Yeah. So what difference does the shading?
The shading process is what allows it to become matcha, because that is what depriving the plant of sunlight kind of causes it to go into the overdrive of nutrient production. So that's why it's so high in chlorophyll, caffeine, antioxidants, amino acids.
Okay.
Way more than green tea.
If it was in the sun, it would only need a certain amount of chlorophyll. But because it's in a place where there's hardly any light, it has to create more chlorophyll because there's very little light.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and anyone who has houseplants in their house would understand that, because your houseplants, if they're too much in the sun, they tend to not be green.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why you get such a vibrant green powder from matcha. And that's how you can also tell the quality, because if it is a dull, kind of grayish brown looking powder, it actually probably is not matcha. It's definitely not ceremonial grade, but it likely might just be dried green tea leaves that have not been shaded.
Are we going to see this over the years as the market matures, the category that you guys have created, as it matures and we start seeing other players come in and trying to undercut? Is it going to be a Manuka honey situation where people are cutting green tea powder with some matcha and selling it as private label drinks or whatever?
Great question.
We've been talking about this a lot recently. In short, we think yes.
Of course they are.
And that is why, and we also think, especially because it's really interesting actually, Japan produces about 80,000 tons of tea, of all types of tea annually. And the reason people might be seeing in headlines that there have been global matcha shortages is because only about 10% of that is dedicated to matcha. So it's a limited supply. And so as a result, you see new countries come on the map for growing, like China, Taiwan, Sri Lanka. And we're now looking into kind of trying to get geographical indication protections for Japanese matcha, because for us, provenance is so important to the culture and the history of the ingredient that you would want to understand suppliers disclose if they're sourcing from China.
But also for everybody listening, you're building a 100 million, 200 million, $1 billion business, right? That's what you're doing here, because it's very obvious that that's where this is going to go, right? I believe. $1 billion category anyway. And you're future-proofing your business by thinking about all of these things now. You're not waiting until it's too late.
Correct.
And you're now, you've got this relationship with the Japanese supplier. The government in Japan is really interested in working with you. There's the opportunity to get this dénomination d'origine, I don't know what that is in English.
No idea.
Sorted, and then you guys can almost own. When I was in university doing my primary degree, my fourth year, my final year, favorite course was called Innovation, Creativity and Law. And it was run by a guy who's in his 80s, and he would always say it's impossible to get a first in this degree. But a lot of it was about how do you use either first mover advantage or the law to create a competitive advantage that nobody else can have access to. And he used to call it specific market power or in-specific market power. And specific market power was where if you won a tender, and so the government had said to you, you're the only person who can do this. It's like you've got the market power and it's specific. And in specific market power is when you have created those barriers yourselves. And what you guys are doing at the moment, it's in specific market power. You're creating relationships, not only with the supplier, but also the government, huge customer for them. So therefore they're going to be good to you. But you're also on the way to creating specific market power, because if it ends up being a DOC and you're the only ones who have access to that, boom.
Exactly.
That's the point. Yeah. That is the goal.
But what I would love if anyone listening to this kind of goes, okay, I didn't realize that I should be thinking that big, that far out, strategic, because there will be Manuka honey situation if there isn't already.
It's so difficult when you have a startup or a scale up. It's marrying the short-term thinking with long-term planning is the biggest challenge because you obviously need to consistently, meet your targets and then like reach projections. But you also have to think about how can this business be viable in 10 years from now? Even if, you would hope that one day you might be building a business to sell it, you still need it to be valuable within 10 years because otherwise an acquirer will never see any value in acquiring you. So you just have to think about those things.
Actually, I would love you guys to come on the Wednesday Firesides with the Mini MBA this year on partnerships and resources in week 8 or 9.
Absolutely.
Would you do that?
100%.
Okay, amazing. Because this is such a great case study for that.
And just on partnerships and resources, really at the heart of business or any business, whether you're in food and beverage or another industry, is people and it's relationships. And it's about fostering relationships. And I think one of the key examples of how people play such a big role in shaping kind of your future trajectory is joining your course, how many years ago? 3 years ago, and the network that it opened up for us, but also introducing us to Shani. That's how we met. And so it's about being open to meeting new people, asking for help, and just saying yes to opportunities that would allow you to grow your network. That's been paramount to our success for sure. So highly recommend going to networking events or joining incredible communities like yours.
People, what is it like to build a business that is growing this fast? And now you've got 30 team members, there's the co-founders. Shani's almost a co-founder, been there since the beginning. Do you row? I think this is the reason really we just did the girls, isn't it? Is there stress? How do you manage your health? How do you manage the team?
Yeah.
It's always girl power.
Yeah. I think at the beginning of the business, it was just how can we get as many people to believe in the brand and put it on the shelf? And that was what we were doing every single day. It's just so many emails, so many rejections, so many people saying it's niche. And then obviously Dragon's Den happened, and then that really changed the trajectory of the business. And now it's actually, I always say working at Perfect 10 is the easiest sell that anyone will ever have. And if this is somebody's first sales job, I'm like, good luck after this because it'll never be this easy. It really is just everything has fallen into place from category, brand, founder story. But now I think one of our biggest challenges is people. So whether that's finding new people, making sure that people are growing with the business as well, and are they aligned to our values? We just announced our values actually recently. And I think we're building the rocket ship as it's flying. Yeah. And, we're not always going to get everything right. I think there's an aspect of we're learning as we go as well, but it's been hard.
It's definitely a challenge. And I think we also have a particular type of culture here that attracts a certain type of person. And if you're not that person, you might not understand what we're trying to do here. But you really don't achieve this type of growth if you're not willing to work hard. It's just not possible. And when I say hard, I don't just mean with intensity, but honestly, hours as well. We spend a lot of time in the office together. And I think that's why I'm also just so grateful to be able to curate a team of people that are really kind and fun, passionate, hardworking, because it's an incredibly motivating environment to be around. And you want to be with them. I get sad when I'm not in the office. I know that sounds a bit odd, but it's so funny. Everyone was laughing because when we got back from Japan, they were like, how is Japan? I was like, amazing, but I missed you guys. I really missed you guys, and I wanted to be back here. And I think we all kind of feel that way.
Yeah. We're at this very interesting time with hiring where before it was enough really for somebody to be super passionate about the brand and to really believe, but now we actually need that sweet spot of both and probably more skills based. So hiring people from blue chips, hiring people with specific FMCG experience. But they still need to have that passion and belief for the brand because, as Marisa said, it is hard work. Building a company that's growing as quickly as we have is not easy. There are going to be some sacrifices, and to sacrifice, you have to believe. So you have to believe in this business and what we're trying to do, because if you don't have that, well, why would you? Why would you sacrifice, right?
But also, I think it's about aligning incentives. Incentive alignment is one of the most important things as an employer, which is why we have, an EMI share option scheme for everyone as long as you've been working here over a year. You basically own part of the business. Shani owns part of Perfect Head. Everyone here owns part of Perfect Head after 1 year, and we want to make sure that people are looked after and rewarded for their hard work.
Can I come and work for you, please? I know you're recruiting right now.
Yes, we are.
So I can come and work for you. I've got time.
You have skill.
I have skill. Yeah, so that's fine.
You believe in the brand.
Do you want to move to France again?
No, but I could definitely help you set up the business over there.
Great.
No problem.
Done, you're hired.
Yeah, seriously.
Done deal. I'll send it right now.
I mean, that's quite easy, actually.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I think ownership is so important. And one of my personal goals as a founder is to make sure that everyone is financially rewarded for their hard work, and also that Perfect Head can serve as a career stepping stone for everyone here, and that it actually holds weight and meaning, the same way that if you said you were ex-innocent from, the very early days, or ex-goo, that holds weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to us about the hard times. I know the last time we spoke, Shani, I gave you a big lecture on health and not working too hard and all that kind of stuff. And Marisa, I know you've been through some tough times. It's not easy driving a business that's growing this fast, right?
No, it's not. I think acceptance is key. It is hard, but this is, again, where that belief really comes into it, and that alignment in values and that alignment in culture. And I did an interview with a grocer 4 years ago, and it said, okay, what's your career dream? And my career dream was, I want to build a household brand. I want to be part of building a household brand, and going out and seeing our matcha powder pouch in a cafe, or my mom going down the road and Perfect Head served there is amazing, and that is happening. So that does get you through, but it is hard. There are sacrifices.
I also think expectation management with people who are not directly involved in your business. So when I say that, I mean family, friends. My friends know that I'm difficult to get hold of, and if you want to get hold of me, call me, because I will answer the phone, but I'm not the best at responding to messages, just given that my inbox is a bit of a mess. Sure. And I think it's just expectation management. They all understand that we are working our butts off, and having that support as well from the people around you, but also the team. We're all going through it together, and it's so nice to have team members that you not only enjoy working with, but just doing life with. I'm so grateful to be able to do life with Shani, and I genuinely miss Shani when I'm not with her. When I was in America for my surgery and I was away from everyone, it was really upsetting for me, just because I enjoy, it's the people that make it the experience.
That's just so lovely. It is so lovely that you guys get on so well and love each other so much. I mean, who would have thought that you could end up working with someone who ends up being a best friend?
Well, thank you. That's all because of you.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, well, it's not actually. It's because you were the first person to come on my very first program.
Was it the first?
Yeah, she was the first person to sign up.
Because you know what? It was COVID times, and I remember going, there just needs to be a course that teaches people how to run a food and drink business. And then you did your LinkedIn post. And I remember messaging you, and I was like, I've been saying it to myself because no one was around to hear me. And I was like, this is exactly what this industry needs. And then we had a call, and
so you came on, and then Melissa Murdoch called for Neat Clean. Yeah. And then you guys did the program, I think, a month or two later. And then I was like, Shani, you've got to meet these people because you need to work for them. They are amazing.
And then she rejected us.
One time.
But it all worked out. And I said it would, remember?
You did.
So
you did.
I really believe in trusting the universe and also manifestation, but not in the woo-woo.
No.
But actively doing the work to make the result expected, I guess.
Yeah, I think you've got to do that. And I think, that's what I did when I got diagnosed, and I was walking, I can remember walking out to the car after being told that I had, breast cancer, and holding hands with my partner and thinking, oh my God, what is going to happen to our income? Because, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, if I'm going to be in bed with chemo for like a long time. I'm going to have to do it totally differently. I'm going to have to like do it totally differently. I'm going to have to turn it on its head. And that's when I decided to like get in touch with Elantra and pitch the mini MBA. And then, you know, then I was like, okay, well, that worked really well. And we got on so amazing, actually jumping in a cab now to go there now. And then this year said, okay, how can we get bigger? Well, now with Jolson and Nielsen, it's just a dream come
amazing.
true. You know?
Amazing.
You doubled down, and I respect you so much for that, because I think a lot of people quite understandably in that moment would go, you know what, it's okay, I'm just going to take it easy. And I was always so amazed. You would be on WhatsApp going, hey guys, I've just seen that so-and-so's launched this, and what are you thinking here? And what are you thinking about your French distribution? And I'm like...
And you were going through chemo.
And you were going through chemo.
The hardest months of your life. It's pretty amazing.
And I remember we had a phone call, and you were like, and I just want to hear all about how's it going with Tesco? How's the compliance? And I'm like, Fiona, like...
Compliance. Do you remember I was on that buzz?
Oh my gosh.
By the way, though, very important. We should do another episode about compliance. Because if you're not on shelf,
You can't do anything.
I know.
but no, you really are such a remarkable woman.
Well, so are you guys.
We
So are you
admire-
guys. I'm so
admire you.
lucky to count you as friends and to have met you. So thank you, Shani, for getting in touch.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for replying. Honestly, like if you just didn't reply, I would have been like, fair enough.
I'll never forget being in the car on the way back from, I think, Wales, because we were going to SH Foodie to do some development with them. And I was like craving just learning about more in food and bev because we had no background in it. And so I found your podcast, and I kid you not, listened to like 5 episodes back to back. And then you were like a celebrity to me, and I emailed you, and I was like, she's never gonna respond. She's probably so busy. And then you responded, and I was like, oh my God. I literally screamed, like Teddy remembers it. I squealed in my living room. So fun. And now all these years later, it's crazy.
Yeah, we're both Fiona fangirls.
Yeah.
Well, we need to wrap up because I've got to jump in a cab to go to see Elantra and Nielsen and Jolson. Yeah, but the next time I see you is going to be in April, right? Because we've got the kickoff for the mini MBA on the 23rd. Nice. I would like to invite you to the rooftop drinks on the roof of Elantra, overlooking St. Paul's. Overlooking
Count
St.
us
Paul's.
in.
Giles Brooke will be there. Lots of other famous people.
Matcha margaritas.
Oh yeah, do you want some matcha?
We'd love some matcha. Right. No one will know how to use it, but
we can help with that.
We'll serve.
well, that would be amazing. Yeah. Okay, matcha margaritas. That'd be absolutely amazing. And I would really like to formally invite you to be the guests at one of the Fireside Wednesdays to kind of share all of this expertise in building the team and the resources, the capabilities, the assets, the IP that future-proof your brand and make it, that multi-million-dollar brand it's going to be. And I love you both so much.
I love you.
Honestly, seeing you makes me so happy. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Really happy too. I'm going to give you another big hug, okay?
Love you, Fee.
A huge thank you to Marisa and Shani for sharing their story and insights on scaling a relatively niche product into a global brand. From battling early manufacturing challenges to innovating new products and building a dynamic team culture, these two are a masterclass in how to build a modern challenger brand. I was really hoping to bump into Stephen Bartlett last week after hearing he'd leased this epic space in Shoreditch, complete with studios, event spaces and private rooftop terraces. Sadly, he was away and yes, I was a bit gutted. But honestly, what happened instead was just as insightful. The real magic actually happened in the staircases between Perfect Ted's offices and Stephen Bartlett's offices. We bumped into directors of ad agencies, founders of new ventures, both in grocery and beyond, and everyone was buzzing with ideas, curiosity and generosity. Everybody was up for a chat, everyone was building something, and everyone was thinking differently. It felt like I'd stepped into a live feed of what the future of business should feel like and what we should all be experiencing every day. So, if you're wondering about the benefits of being in a real live office with your team, surrounded by other teams from other businesses that can inspire you, this definitely reminded me that working from the right space also has its benefits. If you enjoyed today's episodes, subscribe and leave a review and share it with anyone who's into growth stories like this one. Don't forget to check out Perfect Ted's new matcha lattes, which are now on shelf. You just might have found your new favourite pick-me-up. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next episode.